Hey everybody, how you doing? Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to do a video on this one. I wasn't really sure if I cared that much about it, truth be told, but I've seen a few people talking about it, and I guess I do have a few thoughts of my own. So I've decided just to make a super quick video, given I've got a few moments to spare, and just kind of give it a quick read and I guess go through my thoughts. Anyone who doesn't know who this is, it's Ana Kasparian from the Young Turks. First became aware of the Young Turks back in, I think it was 2007 when Obama was doing his run for president. That was when I first really became aware of the channel and these guys, and I've kind of been following them off and on ever since. Um, so yeah, Ana Kasparian was one of the main people there, one of the founders there, and predominantly left leaning, obviously, being the Young Turks. But people have been commenting and noticing, especially over the last couple of years, that she seems to be changing a little bit. I don't know if she really is. I think a lot of this is just a reaction to like a lot of the aggravation she was getting from people in the hard left, people like Vaush, for example. She got a lot of grief because of what happened to her over COVID with a homeless person when she was basically sexually assaulted, and a lot of people on the hard left like blamed her for it, saying, you're privileged, how dare you go online and like give grief to a homeless person, which is really messed up. And I think it's like that's just compounded in. Um, but let's give it a read anyway, just to sort of see what she's actually saying or what. I mean, it's entirely possible it's not that. It could be that she's like had a philosophical change of heart, or quite frankly, it could be like Dave Rubin, where she's basically decided she's going to set up her own podcast and become something of a grifter. But let's have a look and see. So here we go. After Trump came onto the political scene, and especially after he was elected in 2016, the us versus them mentality immediately took shape. Anyone who refused to, quote, resist Trump, unquote, was seen as a threat to the country, and I was fully on board with that mindset. Okay. It felt righteous at first, but eventually the tactics deployed to fight Trump became repetitive, boring, and ultimately fruitless. Okay, the tactics to against the right have been that way for some time now. Like I remember when it was what. Yeah, again, back in 2008, it was John McCain against Obama. People were calling John McCain a fascist. They were saying John McCain was far right. Now today, John McCain would basically be seen as the darling of the Democratic, like the darling of the Democrats, compared to someone like Trump. I mean, the reality is that the people have been saying like these things, particularly against conservatives, like just middle of the road, small c conservatives or just like standard conservatives for decades. That they're fascistic, that they're basically just like Hitler. And the problem with that is when something does arise that really is that, because fascism is an actual word, it has a meaning and a definition. It's not just an insult. When that arises, people have basically become inoculated to it. They don't care. They've heard it all before. So that's kind of when it's saying these tactics become boring and fruitless. It's because, well, yeah, they're overused. Certain words no longer have a meaning, especially with social media throwing it out that much. Polling shows that he has increased his support among Black and Latino voters despite wall-to-wall coverage on his unsavory racist or bigoted remarks. Several years of media raising alarm over Trump's threat to democracy has only resulted in a tight presidential race between himself and Kamala Harris. Well, that's primarily because we typically live in our like media silos now. Um, Social media hasn't like when people say things like more speech is better or more information is better, it's not really the case. I'm not saying I am very pro free speech, but it's not necessarily what's happened. What's happened is that because there's more stuff out there now, people are more able to tailor the sort of news they want for themselves a lot easier. So it's a lot easier to create a bubble around yourself. So the primary reason for that is because even though certain parts of the media have been criticizing Trump and calling things Trump out, people aren't watching that. People who support Trump don't watch that. What they watch is their other thing where they're saying this is all lies. Trump's doing a fantastic job. Yada yada yada. That's why. It's because someone screaming into a microphone is one thing, but if someone on the other side isn't there to listen to it, it's pointless, and that's what happens when we end up in these silos. Um, I can't help but acknowledge that the only thing that was accomplished by resisting Trump was less understanding and more division among Americans. I personally became reluctant to challenge my side, quote unquote, or engage with voters who disagreed with me. In turn, I became less knowledgeable about the people on the world around me. I saw Republican voters as an evil monolith, and that was a big mistake. Okay, this is basically where we're starting to get into the Dave Rubin thing. I mean, that's clearly true. You know, you can be of a different political persuasion and still be, you know what I mean? It doesn't make you evil. But, there are bad policies, and quite frankly, there are people who want to do bad things. I mean, that still exists. Um, my evolution started in 2022 when I was sexually assaulted. There we go. When I was sexually assaulted by a homeless man in my neighborhood, I was walking my dog. It was a horrible experience. Learned didn't change me politically, but the treatment I received from the far left and some progressives after sharing the story did. Okay, yeah, that's basically what I thought has happened here. It's not so much that she's changed her mind, it's just that she's kind of like realized, hey, look, if as a woman, I'm getting sexually assaulted, and I say, hey, this has happened to me, my goodness, this is horrible, and then people you expect to be your allies are effectively blaming you for it, which is almost like the kind of the sort of the age old conservative idea that if a woman's attacked, it's her fault for being provocative. I can understand why that would make someone upset. I really, really can understand why it makes someone upset. Here we go. I was told that by publicly sharing what happened to me, I was stigmatizing my unhoused neighbors. Yeah. Others accused me of feeding into racist tropes because they assumed my attacker was black, but I never even disclosed the man's race. Yeah, I remember her talking about this. Um, it's never happened to me, and touch wood, it never does. But I have been told by people that when an online mob goes after you, it doesn't matter if like you're sat in your home or you're going for a walk outside and everything seems calm. When the main method of like a larger communication, the internet, social media, YouTube, X, Facebook, etc., when that's closing in on you and people are going after you, you feel it. When people say it's not the real world, it kind of is the real world, man. This is how we communicate. This is how we, for the most part, this is how we interact with the wider community. And if we feel that community is going against us, that's terrifying. Okay. But I had never even disclosed the man's race. He was white. Not only did I suddenly see the flawed thinking in some of the left, I also witnessed their cruelty and hypocrisy in real time. These terrible traits that I had associated solely with my political opponent were obviously not exclusive to their tribe. I was stupid to ever think that was the case. Well, yeah, they're people. You know, like if what's the saying here? Like if Vouch was a conservative, he'd probably be on, I don't know, like Steve Crowder's show or something like that. I mean, you have your political views, but then there's also your like social disposition, and some people are just jerks. You know what I mean? It's just some people feel like they're jerks that are more righteous than other people because they think their ideas are nicer. And if you go against their ideas, it's because, yeah, I mean, that exists. That clearly exists. I mean, that's existed forever. I don't think there has ever been a time that wasn't the case. You know, I mean, if ultimately what she's basically saying is like, I just don't associate with people who think that like if I'm sexually assaulted, I'm in the wrong because I'm, what? How did she phrase it? How did she phrase it here? She's stigmatizing my unhoused neighbors. Then okay, you don't need to say I'm no longer with the left. You just have to say, yeah, I'm not unhinged, because that's an unhinged situation. If for someone to say, "Oh, how dare you stigmatize your, unhoused neighbor because they try to sexually assault you," that's unhinged. This person is unhinged. That's it. There isn't. You don't need to sort of make a big thing about I'm changing my political philosophy. No, jerks were giving you grief online. That's it. Da, 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 da. What doesn't? Hang on. That doesn't mean everyone on the left thinks or behaves in this way. It is a small group of lunatics. Okay, that's it. Far from it, but it does mean that there are factions and flaws on both sides of the aisle that do on the aisle, and none. And no one has a monopoly on truth. Okay, right. Jesus. Okay, my glasses tested. Then there was insane reaction to my tweet in March 2023. You see, this one here, like, there's also the false equivalence here. Like, it's been said before by other people. Okay, the lunatics on the left are typically like sort of in the corners of social media, or they're university students. The lunatics on the right are currently running for office and in the House and in the Senate. There's a difference. There is a difference. Okay, yeah, this is where she basically had a go at the fact that she didn't like being referred to as a person who menstruates. Yeah, I remember this. I'm not going to get into that. All hell broke loose. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. She's basically talking about how she resented that, and again, people on the far left, like Vosh, basically sort of tackled her and saying, "Well, you are a person who menstruates, so I don't understand the problem," which is a really strange way of looking at it. Um, it's like well, you are this, so you should just deal with it. No, bro, that's you know. We live in a society. There's a social question too. If people don't want to just be referred to as that, it's a bit strange. And this is basically where she kind of finishes it off by simply saying, I'm hungry for new dialogue, so I'm gonna start. It sounds to me like what she's basically saying is, I was, attacked online. I really didn't like it. I felt like I was being bullied, and so I'm going to go out there now and have conversations with other people on the other side because I'm going to be uber objective and have these, if I'm being good faith, we'll wait and see what happens. On a very, very, very bad faith way of looking at it, like I said, this does sound like the Dave Rubin Tim Pool arc, where she's like, "No, I'm the true centrist now because I look at both sides equally." Um, that's kind of the bad faith interpretation of what could happen. So, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. I understand her grief. I really do understand her grief. I mean, getting attacked en masse by a mass of people for things which you feel are, should not be controversial, such as, yeah, I was sexually assaulted outside my house. This was horrible, and then people turn around and make you the problem. How dare you say this? How dare you bring this up? Or as a woman, you want to have a conversation about, like, words and how they're used and how things are applied and how you're described, how, because it's something that affects you personally. Then someone turns around and says your feelings on this are not valid and you should just shut up. um I get it. I get it. I understand those things, but time will tell. So I guess those are my two thoughts on it. We'll wait and see. Who knows? Maybe at some point Anna will be on Dave Rubin's show and talking about how I'm so sorry I misunderstood you and blah blah blah. I doubt that, but it'd be pretty weird and kind of funny if it did happen. But who knows? Anyway, guys, that's my little political thing for today. I am gonna go grab some lunch. If you're still watching this, thanks very much. Please hit like and subscribe, and take care. Bye.